So the next part of chapter 9 is looking at reciprocal trig functions. So you already know about the sine and the cosine and the tangent, but we have three more functions, and they are the reciprocals of those functions. So the sine of theta is equal to 1 over the cosecant of theta, and likewise cosecant theta is equal to 1 over sine. So we abbreviate cosecant CSC. We would spell it cosecant. Cosine is the reciprocal of secant theta, and likewise secant theta is the reciprocal of cosine theta. And again, that would be secant. And lastly, we have tangent and cotangent. The reciprocal of tangent is 1 over the cotangent. Reciprocal of cotangent is tangent. So for a quick example, basically, if you already know what the sine is, the sine of theta equals 1/2, and I want to find the cosecant, then you just take the reciprocal. So sine theta equals 1/2. Cosecant theta is the reciprocal of that. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2 over 1, or just 2. So you have to memorize which one goes with which. I try to think of, like, you know, the basic sine, cosine, and tangent. It's pretty easy that cotangent goes with tangent. I think of a C goes with an S, so cosine goes with secant, S goes with a C, so sine goes with, or cosine goes with secant, sine goes with cosecant. Okay? So really all you're going to do is, if you know how to find the sine of it, if you need to find the cosecant, just like in the example, you take the reciprocal. All right, so then the other part is our special triangles. So basically, these triangles can be drawn in the unit circle. I took them out of the unit circle because it makes it easier. And in a sense, this page is something you want to memorize. There's different ways to do this. But if you can memorize these special triangles. So it's two right triangles. The first one is a 45, 45, 90. And the second one is a 30, 60, 90. So you learned the relationships of these sides. The legs are 1 and the hypotenuse is the square root of 2. And in this one leg is 1, across from the 30 is 1, across from the 60 is square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. So I think of this as 1, 2, 3 square root. So start with your 30, 1, 2, 3 square root. Then also go to your unit circle. We talked about this, that the cosine is the x value, the sine is the y value. On the lines, we're in the unit circle, so our radius is 1, so this point would be 1, 0. 90 would be 0 over 1, 180, negative 1 over 0, and 270, 0, negative 1. The ASTC, all students take calculus, telling you which ones are positive in which quadrant. So we're going to fill out this chart, and we're going to skip the radians for right now. We're going to go to that in a little bit. So let's look at 0 degrees. The sine of 0. So you're going to go back. Nope. At 0 degrees, the sine of 0 is 1. The cosine of 0, or the sine of 0, sorry, is 0. The cosine of 0 is 1. So sine of 0 degrees is 0. Cosine of 0 degrees is 1. Tangent. So tangent is either sine over the cosine or opposite over adjacent if we're in a triangle. So here, if sine is 0 and cosine is 1, tangent is sine over cosine 0 over 1, which is 0. Cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Think of this as 0 over 1. So the reciprocal is 1 over 0. 1 over 0 is undefined. Secant. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. The reciprocal of 1 is 1. 1 over 1, flip it over, 1 over 1. Cotangent. Cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Tangent is 0, just like sine. If you take the reciprocal, it's 1 over 0. 1 over 0 is undefined. Skip the 30, the 45, the 60. Let's go to 90. Back to your circle. 90's up here. Sine is 1. Cosine is 0. We can do the same thing. So we're at our 90. Skip your radians. So sine was 1. Cosine was 0. Well, what's tangent? Tangent is sine over cosine, 1 over 0, which is undefined. Cosecant. Cosecant, reciprocal of sine. Reciprocal of 1 is 1. Secant, reciprocal of 0 is 1 over 0, undefined. Be careful here. Cotangent. Cotangent is reciprocal of tangent. Tangent's undefined. Well, what's the reciprocal of that? Well, just remember before we said it was undefined, it was 1 over 0. So the reciprocal of 1 over 0 is 0 over 1. So you can kind of think of undefined and 0 as reciprocals of each other. Okay, now let's go to 180. Back to our circle. 180. We're over here now. Sine is 0. Cosine is -1. Do the same thing. Tangent, 0 over -1, 0. Cosecant, reciprocal of sine, undefined. Secant, reciprocal of cosine, -1. Cotangent, reciprocal of tangent, reciprocal of 0, undefined. Go to 270. Now we're down here. Sine is -1. Cosine is 0. Same idea applies. Tangent, -1 over 0, undefined. Cosecant, reciprocal of sine, -1. Secant, reciprocal of cosine. Reciprocal of 0 is 1 over 0, so undefined. And cotangent, reciprocal of undefined, remember we talked about this, so it's 0 over -1, which is 0. 360. Remember that 360 and 0, right? We're here all the way around. It's 360. So 0 and 360 have the same values. So look at your 0 and fill it in. 0, 1, 0, undefined, 1, undefined. All right, so then all we have left is the 30, the 45, and the 60. So now we're going to look at the triangles. Go to our 30. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of 30 is 1/2. What's the cosine of 30? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So sine of 30, 1/2. Cosine of 30, square root of 3 over 2. Tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So 1 over the square root of 3. But we rationalize, we don't leave square roots in denominators, so we rationalize by multiplying by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3, and we get square roots of 3 over 3. So that's our tangent. Now take the reciprocals. Reciprocal of 1/2, 2. Reciprocal of 2 over the square root of 3, or square root of 3 over 2, which is 2 over the square root of 3. And just like here, right, it was square root of 3 over 2. So reciprocal is 2 over the square root of 3. We rationalize it. Square root of 3 times square root of 3, just 3. So 2 square roots of 3 over 3. Go back to your tangent. Remember before we rationalized it, it was 1 over the square root of 3. So the reciprocal of that is just square root of 3. Skip your 45s. Go to your 60s. Same idea. Just think about that we're really just going to the opposite side of this triangle. So the sine and the cosine switch. Go into our 60. Opposite now over hypotenuse is square root of 3 over 2. So sine is square root of 3 over 2. Cosine is 1/2 adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent, opposite over adjacent, and then our reciprocals. So again, sine was opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. Square root of 3 over 1 is just square root of 3. Cosecant, reciprocal of 2, square root of 3 over 2. We just did that over here, right? Secant, reciprocal of cosine. Tangent, reciprocal, or cotangent, reciprocal of tangent. And we did that over here, right? When we move this, we make it 1 over the square root of 3. Take the reciprocal, 1 over the square root of 3. Rationalize it. One more to go. 45. Opposite over hypotenuse. Notice that it doesn't matter, right, at 45, 45. So sine and cosine are going to be the same because the legs are the same. So again, we have a radical in the denominator. We need to rationalize it. So the sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. The cosine is square root of 2 over 2. And tangent, opposite over adjacent. Opposite over adjacent, 1 over 1. Remember that this was 1 over the square root of 2 before we rationalized it. So when we flip it, we get square root of 2. And reciprocal of 1 is 1. So you have a few options here. You can start to see some patterns. You can look at the different patterns here. You can also memorize these triangles and this unit circle. Everything that we got on that chart came from here. You can memorize the chart. So you need to find a way that works best for you, and they're going to get a little bit more complicated also, but that works best for you. Whether you want to jot these down, memorize these, once you get to the regions, jot them down, a test, jot them down. But you need to memorize these somehow so that you could actually fill out that chart or tell me what the sine and the cosine tangent are. Now, yes, you have a calculator, and yes, that's going to work for the negative ones and the zeros and the undefined and the 1/2, but it's not going to work for the radicals. When you have anything with the square root of 2 or the square root of 3 in it, and the question says, give me an exact value, you cannot give a decimal equivalent because they're irrational numbers, and then it's not exact anymore. Okay? Plus, it makes your life a lot easier if you don't have to pull out your calculator and you just know these special angles. Okay. So that was just a link to the worksheet that you just did. We're going to look at this homework stuff, obviously, in class. So really what you need to do is look at this chart, look back at the special triangles, and figure out a way. Look at these patterns, start to see the different patterns, like the sine of 30 and the cosine of 60 are the same. Notice these reciprocals, tangent and cotangent, tangent and cotangent, the 30s and 60s. 45, they're the same, and then there's 1, and then the same, and then there's 1. Okay? The undefines versus zeros and ones or negative ones. All right? So we'll do a little bit more work on this in class. And again, you really want to get this concrete because we're going to build on it. We're going to do multiples of 30s and 45s and 60s, and you need to know how to find these. See you in class.